Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cozy Content Corner podcast. I am so excited to have my dear friend and client, Cindy Beerworth, today. I absolutely love her. She has so many gold nuggets to share, but a little bit about Cindy before we dig into it all. Cindy is a mindset and productivity coach who helps moms in business, mom business owners become efficient AF in their business while learning how to be present with their kids and family. She teaches her clients how to blend it all, motherhood, business, and life. Cindy works with clients who own established businesses but are edging on burnout and realizing they're never fully there in moments that matter the most. She is all about realistic productivity and consistent workflows, which means creating systems that work and debunking the myth of mom brain, which we are going to get totally into. In real life, you can find Cindy teaching fitness classes in the AM, coaching in the PM, and momming so hard to two of the cutest kids in between. Cindy believes in the power of showing up and celebrating it all, from the tiny wins to the $1 million moments. Cindy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so excited you're here because you are somebody that just takes action. Like, you are somebody that takes action. You hear something and you're like, yes, let's fucking try it. And that is like the absolute best headspace to be in as a business owner. And I'm so excited for you to share with my listeners how you do how you do that, the mindset that goes into it, and all of that stuff. But before we dig into all that nitty gritty, I want to back up and I
Mhm.
want to hear where you came from. You have had previous careers, previous lives before you have entered the online business world. So let's hear about it all.
Do you want the short or the long version? I guess I can try and make it a little bit shorter.
Yes, you could give us
Yes.
the long version too.
Okay, great. Well, yes. So what brought me here? To this moment. I played soccer in college. And so community, obviously, and that hard work, like you were talking about, that just kind of like action taker. I was always constantly being coached and getting feedback. And so implementing just kind of became like a part of my like MO, like who I am. And then from there, I had a dream since I was 10 years old. My dad is born and raised in Brooklyn, like third fastest kid on his block. That was what he would always tell me. And I like loved MTV. I loved TRL and like just had this big Apple dream of moving to New York City. So after I graduated college, I went up to New York City. I really wanted to work in movies and TV. I also kind of had a little bit of a stint of wanting to sing, possibly. And it was just one of those things where I never wanted to ever think like, what if? I always just wanted to be like, this is something I've always thought about. Like, yes, let's go and do it. So moved to New York City. I started as a nanny, live in, and that gave me an opportunity to like really get some money under my belt, move to the big city and worked there. I was there for a little under 5 years and worked in TV. I worked in a post-production house, and I worked on 3 movies while I was up there. And so I've had many roles along the way, some credits in the movies as well. If you want to check out my IMDb account, I actually have one of those. Um, yeah, and then came to that. I was 27 years old, and I had that quarter life crisis, like just kind of like, where do I want to be? Do I want to be doing this? And everything kind of just always came back to coaching, and not just coaching, but like being and guiding and mentoring kids. And so I went back to my alma mater, UAB, and I went and got my master's in early childhood and elementary education, and loved it. It was like something I'm like, yes, I have found my calling. Having that like kind of like theater background, that like auditioning, wanting to be in the movie industry, all of that like was such a great kickstart for me, because what I love teaching, or what I loved about teaching, was the idea around it being a creative platform. Every single day I got to like walk in, the curtains would open, the kids would come in, and I like just really got to be on stage. And so that's what really drew me to teaching at the time, which brought me here to New Orleans. And started teaching and did that for 6 years. Taught anything from like little, so 3 years old, all the way up through to about fourth, fifth grade, and had some fertility things happening along the way, and so I ended up leaving into my second year of school when I was teaching at a school here, and it was a really tough decision. I do everything 110%, and I knew I was struggling, so I needed to pull back a little bit. And so through that opportunity, I found yoga, and just the idea of like really pouring into myself, the self-reflection, like all of that, like moving my body, which is a huge thing in my life. I went and got my children's and kids and trauma-informed yoga training right away. But in order for that to stick or be certified like fully, I had to take an adult certification. So I became an adult certified Baptiste inspired teacher. And I teach that as well as fitness classes. And, through our fertility journey, we did finally get pregnant with our first baby. And I could not have been like more happy. It was just also one of those things where it was in the pandemic happened. And so she's 5 months old. I'm already feeling isolated from, being a new parent, a new mom. And all of a sudden the world kind of like shut off and shut down. And I really kind of had those shifts again of like, okay, what do I really want to be doing? I always thought I wanted to create a brick and mortar where I could do all the things. I could do my teaching, I could pour into teachers, I could pour into parents, families, kids, yoga, like you name it, I wanted it. And it wasn't going to happen. And so social media had always been one of those things like I just kind of perused. I mean, I wasn't really on the Insta at all yet. To me, I'm going to date myself, but Instagram was like a filter app when I started.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, like, okay, what's going on? And so I just kind of started, really documenting a few of the things that I was doing. So I started my page as Peace, Love, Play. Which was all about like kind of DIYing some early childhood activities with my daughter, and it was really great. I did enjoy it because I was kind of like using the teaching background, and now I've got my own child to do it. And still though, like it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. I wanted to actually like hold that kind of more sacred of like what happened in my house with my children. And I was in the meantime also sharing like very intimate, vulnerable, raw honesty when it came to what I called moments. So a play on moments, and was really starting to see a connection with women and other moms in the social sphere that were feeling the same way. And I was working with my first business coach at the time, and I was just like, I feel like I'm having this calling to work with women. At the time I was like, women, maybe it is moms, I'm not sure. um and so I started to slowly pivot my way into what I am today, which is Cindy Beerworth LLC. No fancy title here, just my name. And I have been just loving it. So like that's what brought me into coaching. I niche now to moms because I just know the hard work that moms put in and the invisible load that we carry at times. And I want them to know that like you can have both. Like there is not an either or opportunity. Like there is literally the and both. And the way to get there is through really like leaning into your season of life. So if that's motherhood and like 10% business, like you're great. If that's more 80% now into your business and 20%, like your kids are maybe a little bit older, like, or whatever, like those different seasons, like I want moms to know that like you can work through it. It doesn't have to just be this like all of a sudden stop. And like that's where I come in to like really help them create systems around realistic productivity, what that really looks like when you have an ankle biter at your feet, one soon to be walking, and then you're trying to, like do the blend. I like to call it blending versus balance because like balance, I feel like just doesn't exist. So
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind if we back up
yeah,
to your IVF journey a little bit more?
absolutely.
And I also want you to share that pivotal moment. I know Cindy's story because we've been friends and we've worked together for a hot minute, but this is important. I think a lot of people will resonate with it.
Mhm.
I want you to also talk about that moment where you were listening to a certain podcast,
Yes.
um, and what you realized in that moment. So let's dig into those two a little bit more.
Yes. So while I was doing my Peace Love Play, I was also taking courses because I was thinking like maybe I'll go back to teaching or start my own, like I said, start my own school, brick and mortar, whatever it was. And I was listening to a podcast with two women that I like. I really, I think nothing but the best for them. However, I was listening to the podcast, walking my daughter like for the third time in a day because that's all you could do during COVID. And it was a Q&A. And people from their audience sent in questions. And one of them was, what do you do for yourself? And literally, the first one was like, what is doing things for yourself? Like, what is time to yourself? And the other one kind of like echoed that idea. And I found myself in that moment. It's kind of like that, like zoom in, of like, holy shit, like I'm living like for my daughter. I mean, I want to pour everything into her. However, like I am important too. And I needed to come back to like myself. And I recognized in that moment that like this this page, what I'm doing is like not it. This is not it. Because also like I recognized too that that part of me had like left, right? And I was shifting into this other direction. But it was one of those things in those moments where I'm like, what is time to yourself? I'm like, yeah, what is that? I'm like, where's my time? How am I pouring into myself? How am I saying yes to myself? Like, what can I do? I was feeling, oh my goodness, like all of the things. I love my husband and I like he was everything to me. So I was like, you're doing this, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, whoa, like halt there for a second. And he basically too was like, you need to be pouring into yourself. Like you literally like you do everything. I got caught up in like being that perfect mom, the Pinterest mom, making everything like curated. And like that's no, I didn't want that. And so it really just was an eye-opening moment for me just because I was like, I need to be creating space and time for me and really leaning into what I really, really want to be doing. Like this COVID was, I mean, yes, it had its downfalls, but it was also an opportunity I felt for me to really like decide what I wanted to pour my like focus and my energy into. And like I'm very thankful for that. And so I like blessed and released and I like
Mhm.
unfollowed both of them. I stopped listening to the podcast because I didn't want moms to think that they don't have time for themselves because there is time. There's always time.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that part of your story. I think it's like such an important thing for everybody to hear that one, if you've been in this space of maybe consuming a certain type of content or you're like all in on a certain mentor or mentors,
Mhm.
your life can change and your perspective can change. And you have the permission and the ability to say, that's not for me
Yeah.
anymore. That's
Mm.
totally fine. That's totally fine. But you have to be able to like look within and be like, hey, I want more for myself. I want different for myself. And just pivot away from that. There's nothing wrong with that. So thank
Absolutely
you. Thank you
nothing.
for sharing that.
Yes.
Um, Now, how about when it comes to working with moms
Hmm.
specifically? Like,
Yeah.
did you work with moms in the past? Is that always something that you have done? Or what kind of called you to work with moms?
Mom specifically. Well, I can back up a little bit. I think I shared this with you. I definitely, I mean, work with women in all the things, especially like yoga, like in the fitness sphere. Like I feel like, there's a lot of women there. And there was a moment when I was in my IVF journey where there's a company here that it geared towards moms. And so you could like bring your baby and like, do workout classes. And I was like, oh, this is a no brainer. Like, and they had like early childhood, like activities afterwards. And I'm like, boom, 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 I've got this kind of thing. And so I reached out to the woman and we had an amazing interview. And at the end of it, she was like, I don't know how it came up, but it was like, do you have kids? And I was like, well, we're working on it, because if anyone listening is had or is on their IVF fertility journey, not everybody understands it, right? It's not one of those things like boy meets girl, they come together and like it all is like rainbows and butterflies at the end. My journey was very different. It was very much more of like a wiggle worm type of thing. And she told me that to contact her when I had a bun in the oven. And that was really fucking hard to hear, especially knowing that I was in Houston working on it, like actively, like, and I'm like, and it was one of those things where I could see, I could get upset and it did hurt. It definitely hurt. I mean, I wouldn't lie, like I didn't cry, yeah, no, I definitely cried. I poured my heart out, called my best friend. And in that moment though, I was like, I don't, I'm like, I never want anybody to ever feel that they can't do something because they're not something else. And so, as I have run programs and the women that have been drawn into my community and who I've worked with, I always just kind of looked for that common thread. And it was always motherhood and kids. And it was just one of those things, like I said, like so often I hear in the spaces that I'm in, it's just like, I need a consistent schedule, but my kids are at home or my kids are homesick. I can't get anything done. And I'm like, wait, there are ways. There are ways to do it. Like, again, like really leaning in, especially like with, having a newborn, bringing a second kid into my life, I've had to really learn how to lean into like my energy, my focus, my superpowers. And like that truly is like helping moms. Like, so I just knew right away that like, mom, like, especially me, I know that I want something that's just for me. Again, coming back to like that idea of like saying yes, that pivotal moment. It's like, I want something that's just for me. I pour into everyone else in my life, everything else. It's time for me to have something that's mine.
Yeah. And I think that everyone can relate to that, even if they're not moms, especially business owners, because I'm sure there are business owners that are pouring into their clients and their customers and their family and their friends. And then they come back to themselves and they're like, it's like bone dry. Like, where is
Yeah.
something for me? So I'm so glad that you shared that.
Hmm.
Now, shifting into the productivity space,
Yes.
because Cindy is such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to that mindset and productivity space for everybody. All business owners can really, really benefit from your nuggets.
Hmm.
So, how do you blend and actually execute on things that make you productive when it comes to business tasks, creating content, emails, having calls with clients? Like, what are some tactical tips that we can take away?
Yes, 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 yes. Well, I have a few. um,
Yes.
yes, but when it really comes down to it, you've heard me talk about it a lot. It's really like leaning into your energy. So it's not even the idea of like that whole adage, right? Like where your focus goes, your energy flows, or where your energy goes, your focus flows. And it's so true. So if you look at a long to-do list that you've created, and you do like two or three things and then you look down, it's like that Christmas like Santa list, right? It just feels like ever long and it's like you're never ever gonna like you're gonna walk two steps and it's always gonna come back down. I was doing that. I do have an ongoing to-do list. Like I won't say that I don't. However, what I recognized after having my second kid especially was the idea that like my brain, like I my husband like jokes that I have a memory of an elephant, and I do, but I don't want to. Like, I don't want to remember everything. I don't want to be the coordinator of the life. Like, I want to like bless and release and like put some of that responsibility on others, right? And I mean, even my 3-year-old, like I'm like, we're starting to like, I'm starting to kind of inch in getting her responsible for a few things because literally there's so much information that lives rent free in moms' heads. Rent free. And I like at a point was like, I can't do this. Like my brain needs a better way. And so what I love to teach is just to really think, again, coming back to your seasons. If you're a work from home mom, what do you do? Like, write a whole list down of what you do and then see the commonalities. So a lot of times for me, I call these my anchor buckets, right? So
Yes, dig into anchor buckets for
yes.
us.
So for me, it's basically like your anchor buckets are basically like your categories. So it's taking like same ideas, right? So your themes and then thinking about, okay, where does this go? Categorizing it. So for me, a lot of times it's my personal bucket. So like, you know, learning, fitness classes, journaling, that type of stuff. And then there's family, which is appointments and holidays and whatever that comes along with that. Things you got to order, right? Like you notice the toilet rolls out, like get more toilet paper. And then my business one a lot of times. And so that will be anything, like you said, emails, whatnot, client calls. And so under each one, that's where I create my to-do list. So now I've like taken my like full to-do list and now I categorize it. So literally, I'm like, okay, I have the energy. I see that I need to make appointments, dentist appointments for both kids, and my dog needs a vet appointment. So literally, I'll take those same like ideas, those same like tasks, and I will batch them. So it's more than batching content. It's like literally taking a chunk of my time. So a lot of times I do time limits too. So I'll be like, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes. So right when I put my little guy down, I'm gonna 5 minutes. I'm gonna make the dentist appointments and I'm gonna call the vet. Bada boom, bada bing, start to finish, it's done. So when it comes to, so like that's kind of how I would do it in like my life bucket. And then when it comes to business, same idea. So at the top of the month, I basically kind of look at what I'm like, am I in a launch season? Am I in more of a creation season? And so I will literally look at what I have, write those to-dos down, and then I will again find the way to batch them. So I group those same like tasks. I look at again, what's going on in my week? What appointments might be there? What are some non-negotiable times that I am unavailable? I have my mom hat fully on. And so from there, I can plug in what I'm able to accomplish. So I can take those same like tasks if it's, writing a caption and writing an email. So one caption, one email, I'm literally just zoning in on that writing genius. So my brain isn't going like from grocery list to this to that all over the place. Like your brain is literally, because that's wasting energy. Therefore, you're not being productive. Therefore, you end your day and you put your head down. And you're like, what did I even do? Did I get to cross anything out? Because that satisfaction of crossing things out is legit. Like I love being able to like check something off. So I really love like anchor buckets and batching, and then really again leaning into your energy. And so by that, I mean thinking about now what energy audit basically, like what kind of energy is this task going to take? So for me, I know that like writing captions, writing is going to take maybe a little bit more brain space. So that's like a higher energy task. I know that I work better in the mornings. So I would use that first nap to like put those high energy tasks in. So that might be anything where I'm face to camera like this, creating short form video, having client calls. And then I have found a really great blend and, kind of, I don't want to say balance, but, a great way of like taking my afternoon since don't talk to me after 2 o'clock. I've had lunch,
Yep.
I'm tired. I'm like, it's my nap time. I want to lay down. Or like, so I call those my low energy tasks. So that might be perusing Canva and finding that carousel that I want to do for the month. So that, or it could be writing an email. Like I give myself 5 minutes. Like emails are actually like really fun for me. And I can't believe I said that. Like, because at first it was hard, right? But like you flex the muscle, you find the way. And so really like those low energy tasks are things that you can be now just like in your business. So onboarding clients, things where you're literally not putting forth like you and your energy. So that's like the biggest, I like be like the biggest thing. I've got other tips and tricks, but like that is definitely the way I lean in. I definitely lean into mood as well. So if I'm tired, I'm a manifester by human design. I know that I need to rest and play before I work. So I'm making sure like working out is my play. And then that afternoon, like I'm going to lean into my work. So
Yes, so juicy, so juicy. So let's recap for everyone
Yeah.
listening that was like, wait, what were they again? Okay. So you guys are going to do your anchor buckets. So
Yeah.
that's taking the tasks in your life and grouping them together. So what do you have to do personally? Do you need to make appointments? Do you have to run to Target? Do you need to make an Amazon order? Do you need to put something on auto ship? Then maybe you have a business bucket. Then
Mhm.
maybe you have a fitness bucket. What are some other buckets that people have?
Um, Mindset have been some,
Mm,
yeah,
that's good
like,
mindset.
yeah, mindset. I would definitely say, let's see, like a learning. So sometimes like I lean like really into learning. And so I don't really, I make that separate, even if it's a business related task, like I make it its own separate bucket. Just because like I'm pouring into a different version of myself, if you will, or that's a
Yeah.
different hat. And so if I have some replays I need to watch, like in the TikTok membership, I'll like I will carve out time because there are those moments where I'm like, I really want to watch something. I don't want to watch a show, but like I want to pour into like something that I know is going to help me in my business. And so a lot of times I'll have a learning bucket.
Yeah, and that's so important. Like, that's great that like we're getting so specific because like task switching like that is the biggest thief of our
It is,
time.
it
And
really,
I'm so guilty of doing that. I'm literally not perfect. That's why I love always listening to your golden nuggets. So anchor buckets, then batching. So doing those same like tasks at whatever time you set out to do them. Again, so we're not task switching. And then
Mhm,
I love what you said about sorting out your high energy and your low energy tasks. And now
mhm.
this is going to look different for everyone. I don't want you to just take Cindy's examples and run with it because it's so funny. As you were talking, I'm like, oh my God, creating Canva graphics is the highest energy fucking task in the world for me. Um, so literally like write down everything you do throughout the day and be like, okay, if I have the most energy in the morning, this is what I need to do. And then as it trickles down throughout the day, then maybe I can have my lower energy tasks that take less out of me. So I love that. Love it, love it, love it. So where do you organize all of this? Do you write it down on a piece of paper? Do you have it on your computer? Talk to us about that.
Yes, so I have a master document in Airtable. So, I actually it's funny because I actually just made a TikTok about this, about, productivity coach gone wild, right? Or like in the wild, but it's basically I show you because there are those moments, I am present with my kids and those intuitive downloads always want to come in right when we're making a puzzle, right? So,
Mhm.
I also am highly aware. I hold a pretty strict boundary about not having my phone around if I'm playing with him, just because that's just something, right? That's like one of my values. And so unless I'm doing B-roll, which the little guy has actually really started liking, he sees it and he's like, "Doo, doo, 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 doo." But I literally have notebooks everywhere. So I am definitely a paper and pen gal. So I have like a notebook which I can scratch up here, in the kitchen, which is like right behind me. We're in our little tiny rental right now. I have my catch-all for like when food is out. So literally, again, y'all getting it out of your brain. I cannot say that enough. It does not occupy space. It's here. So I've got a catch-all in the kitchen. You go to the back of the house. I've got a catch-all there. And then when I'm on the go, I use Siri and I just shout it into my notes. And literally I take 10 minutes at the end of the day and I because the best, like, if you're an Apple user, you can have your notes app up on your computer and like literally copy and paste. So then from there, I have my Airtable with my buckets. That's it.
Yes.
That's literally what I do. So I'm kind of a both. I'm kind of like a hybrid, all the things. But I definitely always go to my Airtable for all of it.
Yes, and if anyone is listening that does not know what Airtable is, it's a free project management tool where you can like organize your shit. Like it is so good. You can play around with it. If you need help, literally slide into Cindy's DMs or my DMs and we will help you. But it is so simple. It's nothing too complicated and it really does like get everything out of your head and into a space where it's like organized
Mm,
because all of that stuff renting space in your head drains the shit out of your energy.
yes.
And it's just a lot to hold at all times. You don't have to hold it at all times. Once you get it out, yes, whether it's your notes app, an Airtable base, a pen and paper, like literally get it out of your head. So, yes, thank you for sharing that. We love
Yeah.
us some Airtable.
Yes, we do.
We love us some Airtable. Um, Now I want you to talk about mom brain really quickly
Okay.
because I'm gonna call myself out here, and I didn't know all of like the nuances associated with it. Like I didn't really know what it is. It means different things to different people. People use it as excuses, people use it as, you know, everything. So
Mhm,
can you
mhm.
kind of get into what mom brain is and like debunk that
Yes.
phrase for us?
I'd be happy to. Thank you for asking.
Yes.
So, society's idea of mom brain is literally like moms just like dropping the ball. If that's really being in a very simple as fuck way, it's like moms
Mhm.
dropping the ball. And we're not dropping the ball. We're overworked. We're overstimulated. Our nervous system is on. Our lids are flipped. This is like coming back to like teaching, like I could nerd out on the brain. You know this. And it's just, it's like you said, you hit on it, like it's an excuse. Oh, mom brain. I mean, I'm guilty of using it too. Trust me. Sometimes it comes out of my mouth still, and I'm like, no. I like bring myself back, and I'm like, because it's something that needs to be unlearned. It's a narrative that needs to just go away. And I saw a very highly, what's that called, guru use it as a healthy dose of mom brain. And I'm like, no, it's not a healthy dose of my mom brain. It is literally that you don't have the systems to really help you to, as you want to say, society says, drop the ball. Guess what? Drop the ball. What's going to happen? Like, really, in the end, like, nothing's going to happen. Okay, whoops, I didn't do that. Right. Like, and I just want to debunk the idea because it's just like, we do. As moms, there is an invisible load that we carry, especially if you are the default parent. You are the one that when the kids are homesick, like your stuff gets moved to the left, moved to the right. You're making space for anything and everything. My dogs need something, like it's normally me. And it's just one of those things I just want to like shake, I don't know, shake society if I could, but it's just allowing yourself, like I mean, mostly this has been the theme of our episode, has been like getting the shit out. Get it out. And then using, if you choose to use the system, like, batching and anchor buckets, whatever that is, if it, like you said, if it's pen and paper, like whatever you need to do to get the stuff out so that you can fully like have that energy and that space and that capacity to like be, then that's what I want. I mom brain, just like when I hear it, it's like that ick about, like it nothing is going to happen if you drop a ball. And what if that ball could be picked up and you could figure out where it needs to go and then you can get that shit
Yes, exactly. And no, I'm glad you shared it because I'm not a mom, and I know some people listening are not moms or not moms yet, and so I never even looked at it from that perspective. So I'm so glad that you brought that up and you continue to kind of like tear it apart and debunk it. So thank you for that.
done. I'm like, I could keep
Um
going, but I'm like, you probably need to wrap it up, Cindy, wrap it up. No, but
no, I love it all. Let's shift
Mhm.
um to content
Okay.
and creating content. Now, you recently said to me something that literally just made my heart so happy, and it was that like you were excited about creating content again. You're like, I want to make room for things I like content. And I was like, what?
I
You
know.
like content? That's great. Yeah. So talk to us about shifts that you have made in your content anywhere, be it Instagram, video marketing, in your emails that make you feel excited and just powered up about putting things out there and sharing?
Whew, yes. First of all, I want to say shout out to Sarah because she has like literally changed my life. I mean, I was creating content and it was hard. And but the reason it was hard is because I had like an energy block, right? It's going to take so much energy. It's going to take so much of me. And like literally, it's going to take all of your energy if you don't give yourself like a boundary. And so, whatever that is, if you want a time block and you want to give yourself 2 hours, it's going to take you fucking 2 hours to make two things. But if you want to really like get in there and get it done and like just be done with it, like literally, like again, like I filmed it, I'll edit it tomorrow or later today, right? Like it's really just like going in and allowing yourself to, you know, I'm going to go in with like this, like not overthinking mindset. That's like the biggest piece too. And that's what the energy block was. I was overthinking it. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to say it. I need to say it this way. I was comparing myself, like comparisonitis. I need to be doing it this way. And like the more I did it, and the like more I was able to pump out. So like in a session of like 15 minutes, I can pump out 5 to 7. I just boom, 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 boom. And like I said, I go back and I edit it and then that's it. But like I am no longer putting my energy towards the overthinking,
Mm,
towards comparing myself to other people. Did I say that right? It's literally like lesson release, put it out there and see what lands, and being
yeah.
more in this space of what's it called, experimental. Lost my word there for a second, but like being like in like experimental, like not everything needs to be this big moment. It doesn't have to. It's like the breadcrumbs along the way that like really just like it's flexing that muscle. So the more you flex it, like the more it's going to get strong, right? So for me, it was like I would feel it a lot of times in my throat whenever it was time to like pop open my phone. I'm like, I've already like I should have been recording myself and like how many bloopers do I have of myself being like,
Yeah.
"Bloop, bloop, bloop, no one's gonna listen," right? Like, and also that idea, like no one's gonna listen, nobody cares. That was a big mindset shift I had to get over. And I'm just like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to speak to one person. If one person hears my message, and maybe they're not my ideal client, but they know somebody that might be, like, I want people in my community that are going to say my name in a room, that are going to
Mhm.
think of me for somebody else, if it's not for them. And so, like, literally, it's just like getting out of my own way, hitting the easy button. Like, I know that sounds like so ridiculous, but like not overthinking it. And like, yeah, it becomes fun. Like, I'm like, whoa, that was so, like, afterwards, sometimes I'm like, that was so powerful, And I literally just like flip it open and I just talk. Do I mess up? Yes. And you leave those in, you leave those bloopers in because people love it. And like, that's one reason why I love TikTok is because I told you in the beginning, like, it's how I want to show up. And so by me flexing that muscle, I'm showing up even stronger on IG, right?
Yeah.
I'm like really like hearing my voice, honing my message, really refining everything and just like leaning into like that full on trust. I know that's like super woo, but like really like leaning into like that feels good versus that feels hard.
Yes, and that's so fucking good what you said, that it's the breadcrumbs along the way. If there
Mm-hmm.
was ever a snippet for me to grab, I know I'm gonna come back to this snippet and grab it for our TikTok, but literally that is exactly it. It's like everybody thinks when they start out creating content, especially video, that every single piece of content needs to be this big production and it has to go viral. And if it doesn't go viral, then it was a flop.
Yeah.
But it's the breadcrumbs along the way. Every time you show up, every time you're sharing your story and your message, that is what matters. That
Absolutely.
is exactly what matters. And yes, that's what makes it like fun and empowering and like gets your community to you.
Totally.
Um which I absolutely love. And another thing that you say that I absolutely love is you want people to be able to say your name in a room. Who
Mm-hmm.
are they? What is their story and what do they do?
Mm-hmm.
And that is just as powerful as getting a client, getting a follower, because that is growing your community even more, which
Mhm.
is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, I want to end with this. So, like, you've touched on it a little bit, but you are such an action taker. Like, when it comes to your content, when it comes to your offers, like, really, you are willing and able to try whatever. Whereas some people think, like, okay, that's going to be a goal for Q4 of 2024, and I'll write it down and I'll plan it a lot. Like, what kind of mindset things go into just taking fucking action?
This is good. This is good. Well, I will say this.
My dogs are empowered about this too.
No, no, I will say this. I will say this. I touched on it in the beginning of moving to New York City. That's a scary as fuck move. That is, I knew that at 10 years old. And like I said, I have always been of the mindset of what if, and not if, like, what if this doesn't work? If I don't like, what if I never wanted to like look back and be like, what if I would have moved there? And if I chosen something, I chose something else, right? Like you're, especially as a mom, we're making choices like every 5 seconds. I mean, everybody is. What are you going to say? What are you going to do? Are you going to do your flip hair like this? Like we're literally making choices every day. And so I never wanted to look back and think, what if on a choice? So when I go in, I go, like I said, I go 110% because I am so willing. And because maybe it's through my soccer experience, like how many times I've had to, like, fall flat on my face, literally, or I didn't make a team that I thought I should make, or, there's been, points in my life where I've had to kind of like just like pick myself up, like, oh, like, you know, but the biggest thing is you have to take one step in front of the other. And the only way you do that is by taking action. And I talk about this in my fitness classes, right? Like, you create, like, the breath is what creates the action is what creates the energy. So like if you're creating action and you're taking action, you are going to create momentum, you're going to create like expansion, growth, whatever you want to call it, and you're just going to like go for it. Because if you don't, you're going to think, what if,
Mhm.
and I have always wanted to be of that mentality of like, I just go for it. In yoga, we call it like they call it like a banner statement, like when you come up against a wall. And I'm like, I just never want to come up against a wall because I know that I can break through that wall. And my banner statement is always like, fuck it, let's do it. Like,
Yes.
really, like, that's it, right? Like, I mean, I get nervous before being on here, right? Or I get nervous before I teach a fitness class. Anytime I'm like, you're putting yourself out there, like, there's that like mindset shift of like maybe you see it as like a wall, like what can you say to yourself to break through that wall? Just be like, what's the worst that can happen, right? Like, fuck it, let's do it. Like, I'm just kind of, I always just feel like I learn so much more about myself when I do that
Yeah.
as
And it
well.
does really help you flex that muscle of like that empowered action towards your
Mhm.
ultimate goal. How do you expect to get to where you want to be if you never even take one step?
Absolutely.
You're not going to get there. I mean that with love, but like you are not going to get there. You have to flex that muscle. So,
Yes.
yes, fuck it,
Yes.
let's do it. I love it.
Right. Everybody, make
I
sure to put your banner statements down below in her show notes.
Yes, yes. All right, before we wrap up,
Yeah.
do you have any last like nuggets of wisdom for any business owner that wants to get just like more productivity into their life or back into their life if they are maybe a new mom or maybe they're in a new season of life and shit has completely hit the fan? Any kind
Yes.
of last nuggets of wisdom?
Yes. I guess I'll kind of speak to both, right? So just the masses in general. I actually posted this last night, but like the two best like productivity like hacks, like the way you can become more productive is one, like stop doing ish like them. Whoever you want to call, insert them as XYZ, whoever you're comparing yourself to, whoever you're looking at thinking like, oh, I desire that. Oh, I need that. Why is that not happening for me? Right? Like that's pouring so much of your energy into someone else's
Mhm.
content. And versus, here's the second one, is to start, right? Like really just start and taking action towards you and yourself. Because It's so easy to compare yourself thinking like, okay, me, I'm going to bring it back to moms. I remember I was like feeling like super fired up when I had my little guy. Like I was like, okay, like he's laying here. I'm like, okay, I'm getting that energy to like want to, share and like pour into my community. And then there would be those moments where I would just kind of be like, well, do I have the energy? Am I ever going to get out from underneath this baby? Like, am I ever going to, I mean, just like literal things. Can I go and get a glass of water for myself? It's a season. You're in a season. So, really, like, checking in with yourself, checking in with your ego and being like, what do I need to be doing right now? Is it being present here and giving a little bit here? Like whatever that is, because that's going to help you get there, right? Those breadcrumbs, that like big vision goal, that $1 million idea, whatever that is it's like you literally pouring into yourself so that you are able to take those steps. Because if you aren't, you're going to feel resistance. If you aren't, you're going to come against that wall. If you aren't, you're never going to get there, or it's going to take you longer because you're just going to stay right here, comparing yourself to them and using your energy for productivity somewhere else, not on yourself, but on them.
Yes, yes. So just look at yourself, compare yourself to the person from yesterday, from a week ago, from a month ago. That is the most important thing, is to pour into yourself.
Totally.
Cindy, thank you so much for being on. I got so many great insights. I'm sure the listeners did as well. If they want to connect with you or like tell you an oh shit moment that they got from the episode, where can they find you?
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm at Cindy, Cindy dot Beerworth, not Beersworth, beer as in the beer and worth. You'd be very surprised how many people call us like all different things. So Cindy dot Beerworth on Insta. And then on TikTok, I am Biz Mom Confessions W Cindy. So with Cindy. Um, yeah, so slide in. Let me know what's up. I'd love to hear what you're up to, how I can help you, how I can support you, any ahas and takeaways. And thank you so much for having me.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that everybody listening hung out with us today. And I will see you on the next one.